Welcome to the Awesemo Early Bird Podcast. I'm your old pal Emac coming to you with some Thursday NBA action, joined by the one and only Adam Ship My Money Share as we get ready to break down our first look, courtesy of Awesemo.com. Adam, how you doing? It's like all this winning is contagious. It's making you sick.
Yeah, you win some, you lose some, and as far as feeling good goes, not winning that one right now.
All right. Well, if you're feeling a little under the weather, but your bankroll's getting fatter, nice finishes there the last couple nights on both FanDuel and DraftKings. You're getting quite dialed in. I was down in the cheap seats, got fourth in the $12,000 quarter arcade for a grand total of $100. I had to beat 57,000 and three people, Adam. Three people beat me, otherwise I would have won $600. I won't be seeing myself at the top of that anymore, but it was fun for a while. Damn you, Montreal Herald. But we've got a four-game slate here starting at 7 o'clock. The last few Thursdays have started at 8 o'clock, so keep that in mind. Don't get caught watching the paint dry, as they say. We've got a few teams on back-to-back. Boston is on the road. They were on at home on Wednesday night. Detroit is on the road for the second straight game for their back-to-back, doing a little West Coast swing. And then we've got San Antonio is home after being on the road. So they are the other team on a back-to-back. Injuries that we want to keep our eye out for. Gary Harris, questionable. No, not the hip injury, but he strained his hamstring. So he may be out for a game or two, or he may play. We will have to see. Ish Smith, doubtful. He is missed the last couple games. Zaza Pachulia, likely out. He's missed the last 5. Rudy Gay, doubtful, leaning towards out for the Spurs. Alex Abrinas was with the team for shoot-around and practice. However, he is still listed as doubtful and unlikely to play, dealing with a personal matter. Nerlens Noel in the concussion protocol. He has left the hospital, but I suspect we won't see him for a week, maybe 2, after that nasty spill. Shumpert still dealing with a sore finger. He is listed as questionable. They literally don't know what's going to happen. They're not even sure if he's going to get as close to game time decision, so hopefully we get something out of the shoot-around. And then Marvin Bagley is listed as questionable. Now, remember, he returned and then missed the next game. It was a bruised knee. He had been missed half a dozen games. He had told the press corps after that first game that he was 100% playing the next day, felt great. Coaches had other ideas in mind. I expect he is probably going to play. That should cover most of these. Since we do still have 4 games, let's go a little bit by position here, Adam. That brings us over to point guard. We will follow along with the old DraftKings positioning, so we may get a little bit of crossover here. But our marquee option today is Russell Westbrook going against the San Antonio Spurs. Westbrook at 11,300 feels a little tough considering Coach Popovich has figured out how to use his smoke and mirrors on defense once again. Talk to me about point guard.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a really good San Antonio defense now after struggling to start the year out. They've gotten a little bit more healthy and seemingly just put things together. And been one of the better defenses in the league over the last month. You have Westbrook at a reasonable price tag sitting at 11.3 on DraftKings. The position's actually pretty deep for a 4-game slate, though. You can save some money getting to Kyrie. You have De'Aaron Fox still at a very, very reasonable price tag. And then you have guys that are cheap that you can roll the dice with, like Derek White, Reggie Jackson, Dennis Schroeder. So it's a position where I don't feel like you have to pay up, especially because on these shorter slates, often you don't get very good value, and people will still force stars and scrubs, and it just puts you on the same roster construction where you're rostering the same not very good punt plays that can very easily disappoint. So I don't want to really – I don't think we need to force Westbrook into our lineups in this spot just because of the talent that's at the position and, as of right now, at least, the lack of value on the slate.
All right, one thing I want us to file away, and this is more for Saturday, this is with regards to the Detroit Pistons. So they're starting one of their West Coast swings. So they're playing Wednesday tonight. Of course, we were recording this the night before, but they're playing Wednesday in Los Angeles against the Lakers. That game is not yet tipped off. Thursday, they're up to Sacramento. Saturday, they're coming back from Sacramento to LA. They're going to play the Clippers. And then Monday, they're going to be in Utah. So just keep that in mind, especially with the team that has – they may be willing to take a schedule loss. We'll have to see how things play out. But that LA game, it will be their 3rd in 4 nights, and that is always a little concerning. And that's an afternoon game as well. So keep an eye on what's going on with DeAndre, the backcourt, Blake, etc. But you got to think Blake's going to want to play since two of these three are in the Staples Center. Looking down here at some of our other potential discount dandies, if Harris is out, are you intrigued by perhaps a Monte Morris or a Malik Beasley?
Yeah, I think they both become intriguing plays. When we saw Harris out before, you saw them getting a little bit more playing time. Beasley in particular, he's been more aggressive lately, and he actually got the start with Harris out on whatever the day before yesterday was, Tuesday. So I think that he'd be interesting, but also you probably see a couple more minutes for Jamal Murray if Harris is out. We had seen him playing, 36 to 38 minutes. So during Harris's absence. So I think that it would benefit Murray as well and just add to the depth of the mid-range position here.
All right, last one. I'm going to give a little chuckle. I had known that Bruce Brown Jr. for Detroit was playing more. I had not realized he started the last 7 games, but he has played 30 plus minutes in 2 of the last, depending on what he does tonight, which again, that game hasn't started yet for Detroit. But in his last 2, he's played over 30 minutes, and in that stretch, 4 of his last 5 have been over 28. So he's getting minutes. Your mileage may vary. His shot attempts aren't really generally over 5, 6, 7 in that range, and he doesn't do much else. But on a 4-game slate, you're going to have to start looking and scraping around, see if you could find any little bit of value. So that is one guy, particularly on DraftKings here. He is still 3,700. So in the mix, might be able to facilitate something else. That's when you want to start looking at 2v2s, 3v3s, particularly if Adam mentioned you're trying to force some stars and scrubs here. Let's move on to the 2 guard. Of course, over here we have DeMar DeRozan in an intriguing matchup going against the Thunder. Jamal Murray, of course, he's going to get a little bit of a boost as long as Harris is out, or he will go back to hopefully what we had been previously seeing from him over the past 3 or 4 weeks when Harris was out. We've got Lou Williams, tougher matchup there in the Pepsi Center up in Denver, Mile High City. Those are some of the intriguing guys. Potentially a Buddy Hield. He's bit back low, 7,000. What do you like here at the top of the shooting guard position?
Yeah, I mean, Hield's price tag had gotten a little more expensive than I'm really comfortable paying for, but with it starting to come back down, I think he's a reasonable play. Obviously not a great matchup against Detroit. It's a competent defense. They don't play very fast. Pretty sizable pace down spot for Sacramento, but he does give you some nice mid-range upside. DeMar DeRozan at 8,300, especially if Rudy Gay is out, I'll really like that a lot. He's someone that I would want to prioritize in lineups where, especially if I'm not going to Westbrook and I'm looking to get more of these mid-range guys, DeRozan's one of the guys on this slate that can still go out there and give you 50-plus fantasy points for the season without Gay on the floor, even playing alongside Aldridge. DeRozan has about a 31.5% usage rate. He has an assist percentage up around 30% as well. So it's a good Oklahoma City defense, but it's a huge pace-off spot for the Spurs. If Gay is out, then it should be an even more productive spot for DeRozan as well. And I think that he's a pretty good guy to, kind of build your lineups around as far as getting upside in there at a reasonable price tag.
Let's see. Speaking of reasonable price tags, looking at the mid-tier, we've got Reggie Bullock playing 1 million minutes going against Sacramento. Should be a nice little pace-up game there for him. Again, back-to-back. Dwayne Wade, been getting solid minutes as long as he has been in the lineup. He could have one last hurrah here against Boston. He has been hitting with consistency in the mid-20s for fantasy points. So that's something on the shorter slate where we just have 8 teams in our player pool. You may not want to wave him off right away. That is something I end up doing a lot. So I'm going to make sure I keep him in mind at least instead of just crossing him off. And then if you're looking for a couple cheapies, Pat Beverly, no, he doesn't start, but he does close on occasion depending on what the opposition is doing. And he still gets some pretty good high leverage minutes. And if the game's close, they usually have him out there in their good lineup, meaning they go small at center, and he generally plays in the upper 20s for minutes when they're closer. And you can get him cresting close to 18, 20 fantasy points. So just want to put that one out there. I'd prefer to play someone like him instead of Marco Bellinelli. Anything else here near the bargain bin, shall we say, for this position?
No, I think that summed up shooting guard for me.
All right. Small forward, Danilo Gallinari, Tobias Harris, Paul George. Any of these names intrigue you, Adam?
Yeah, Paul George is another one where if you're not going to Westbrook, it's not an appealing matchup for him either. But we've gotten very similar per minute production from the two of them this season, and especially over the last month and a half since Westbrook came back from injury. So it gives you a way to leverage against Westbrook. You hope that you get Paul George doing most of the offensive work instead of Westbrook. If you can't get that high, though, then Danilo Gallinari at 7,100 or Tobias Harris at 7,400. Not a great spot against Denver, but price tags that I think are just a little bit lower than they really should be for those two. If Shumpert is out, then you should get another about 34 minutes from Bogdanovich as well.
All right, looking to kind of the mid-tier. And wow, we get him at a little bit of a discount. This would be Josh Richardson. He is 5,800 on DraftKings. First time below 6,000 in quite some time. The performance hasn't been the best. However, we want to keep in mind that Boston is playing Indiana on Wednesday night. They will be traveling to Miami for that game on Thursday. So it could have some tired legs there. I don't mind him at 5,800. We, of course, have Bogdanovich. He has become one of the fantasy darlings out there for the DFS world. He's up to 6,200. He's still getting it done in a variety of ways. Just remember, he too comes off the bench. And then you have, Marcus Morris, Gordon Hayward. Not really exciting unless somebody gets dinged up Wednesday night for Boston. Anything else here as we close out small forward?
Yeah, don't sleep on Justice Winslow. It's obviously a tough matchup, but he's playing point guard now for Miami. He should get around 32 minutes here. Anytime you can get a point guard at small forward, it's just kind of an appealing spot.
All right, just looking. Yep, nothing. Let's move on here to power forward. Reminder, new promo. If you go to osmo.com in the upper right, there is a join tab. Click on that. Pick any subscription you would like and get 50% off the first month. That's right, 50% off or half price for your first month. You can pick any one that you want. Sign up, fill out your information. The last field will be the promo code. Put in early bird, all one word, and your first month will be half off. You can get the Fantasy Cruncher add-on. You will be behind the paywall for all of the good stuff, ownership projections, production projections, premium articles. It's good. The Slack has just been teeming with people coming up with great ideas, back testing things. It's been a lot of fun. Check it out. Osmo.com, upper right corner, join tab, 50% off if you use the promo code EARLYBIRD, all one word, for your first month. Up at the top here on a back-to-back, we've got Blake Griffin. LaMarcus Aldridge is going to be matching up against OKC. We've got Paul Millsap. Disappointed us in that last game for Denver, but he theoretically should be seeing his minutes continue to tick up. What do you like at this position, Adam?
Yes, you have Blake, in a great matchup against Sacramento, been doing everything lately as far as rebounding, assists, really all season long, kind of playing point guard more than Reggie Jackson does. So I think that Blake is another one. I would say as far as the non-Westbrook expensive guys that we've talked about so far, when you factor in the pricing, I would say $8,300 DeRozan, then $9,200 Griffin, then $9,800 George. Just as far as, getting monstrous upside into your lineup without having to pay all the way up to Westbrook. If you can't quite get there, though, you have, LaMarcus Aldridge at a very appealing $7,200 price tag in a huge pace-up spot. Should play around 36 minutes and also sees a boost without Rudy Gay. So, I think those two guys really stand out at the top.
All right, let's look towards the bottom here. Hey, there's this guy named Kelly Olynyk going to be going against one of his former teams. Scrolling back to last season, he played his former squad, Boston, 3 times. 48 fantasy points, 19 fantasy points, 33 fantasy points. I call this out, 1, because it's a short slate. 2, it's still a reasonable matchup. And 3, he is incredibly cheap at $3,900. Definitely someone I want to consider. Now, we never know what is going to happen with the Miami rotation. It is one of the most difficult to project and figure out. Fortunately, we will have the show at around 9 o'clock tomorrow, around 9:15. You will be getting the DFS strategy breakdown show, and then you'll be getting the deep dive article in which Adam will have dug into this, and then we will have the deep dive show, of course, at 5 o'clock on the Osmo YouTube channel. We will have more thoughts, trying to figure out what's going on, but I suspect we should see in the mid-20s, somewhere between 22 and 25 minutes here for Kelly Olynyk at $3,900. I like that one, Adam. Narrative or not, I like it. My hope for the narrative is he gets the 25 minutes. What he does with them at 3,900, hey, I'll take whatever he does.
Yeah, I mean, the minutes are all over the place, but when he does play, he's generally productive. And also, he's quietly a beneficiary of Dragic being out just because he's a good facilitator as well. So, the minutes are the huge question mark, but if you get them, then there's upside.
All right, let's see. Anybody else? Yeah, nobody was really popping. 4,800 Jeremy Grant, that seems somewhat reasonable. Bam Adebayo, hey, if anything happens with Whiteside, he's at 4,600, nothing horrible there. Projecting him for about the low 20s, but we know he can get over 30 fantasy points if everything breaks his way. James Johnson, yay, another Miami guy. Who the hell knows what's going to go on? Harry Giles, 3,200. Any final thoughts on him, Adam? He is back up with the big team. He was playing a little bit in the G League so he could get some minutes, but he has played the last 5 games here for Sacramento. He is averaging just over 15 minutes per game, and he is averaging a fantasy point per minute. Another guy who's in that scrub-a-dub bin. Any thoughts on him before we transition to the pivot and get on out of here?
Well, it's a really interesting matchup because Detroit has such a big front court with Griffin and Drummond, and before Marvin Bagley came back, we were seeing a fair amount of Willie Cauley-Stein and Harry Giles playing next to each other. But with Bagley back, I'm not sure how often we'll see that with Giles at the 4. If Bagley were to be ruled out, then I think it would be a really good spot to project Giles for like 16, 17 minutes. But if Bagley's in, it just gets a little bit tougher. Like I think they'll play a big front court, but it just gets so dicey because you have Cauley-Stein, you have Costa Koufos, you have Giles, and you have Bagley, and you have Bjelica all competing for the 96 power forward and center minutes.
I'm voting Kostas Koufos. Sadly, is the odd man out of this one.
I wish he was, but Dave Yeager doesn't seem to agree.
Well, they've got a history. They shared a moment. They are simpatico. Let's talk about real options here at the center position. One of your favorites, Nikola Jokic, is going to be going against the Los Angeles Clippers. I like him against whoever they run out there, be that Marcin Gortat, Montrezl Harrell, or a Boban. You've also got Andre Drummond on a back-to-back going to Sacramento. Now, Sacramento's a pretty short flight from LA. Heck, they might even drive up there. I don't know. But what do you like amongst our premier top-shelf options there in Jokic and Drummond?
Yeah, I love Jokic. I think I would rather, if I'm going to pay above 10K for someone, I think I'd rather go Jokic than Westbrook. It's just a really good matchup for him. There's no one on the Clippers that I expect to really give him trouble. Obviously at the center position, you don't have to pay up. There's always some upside there, but not quite as deep a position today as normal. Drummond against Sacramento is a phenomenal spot. I really like him. I think on the 4-game slate, I have no issue playing Griffin and Drummond together either. I think it's just such a good spot for both of them that they can both pretty easily pay off their price tag. Whiteside's obviously an upside play that you really can't have much confidence in as far as consistency goes, but the price tag's too cheap for his ceiling. Cauley-Stein is risky, but I think underpriced. Like he's over a point per minute producer, but kind of like I was talking about with Harry Giles, you run into the risk of him losing minutes if they insist on playing all 3 of those guys at center, Cauley-Stein, Koufos, and Harry Giles. Then you run the risk of Cauley-Stein playing a little bit less. But if you get 30 to 32 minutes from Cauley-Stein here in this spot, he should reward you pretty well. All
right, that is going to do it for us. Again, 4-game slate. You're going to get a couple shows in the afternoon for this, or I guess 1 in the morning and 1 or 2 in the afternoon. That is over on the Awesemo YouTube channel. Check it out if you have not yet been there. Also, we've got some free content on the homepage for those of you that are on a budget. It's the Yahoo Divisional Championship article written by yours truly, geared towards the weekend slate. Yes, this is our last 4-game slate for the NFL, so you're going to want to get on in there and check it out. With that, gamers, you can follow Adam at ShipMyMoneyDFS. I am at EMACDFS, and it is Awesemo_COM over on the Twitter machine. Good luck, gamers.